Welcome to the Super Profit Friends. 15 minutes long, because you're an entrepreneur and you've got a business to run.
Walter, move your hands.
One for the money and one for
Walter, move your hands. Oh, it needs to be this way.
Yeah, it sure does.
There's two forms, yeah. Two verses.
His hand just get in the way again. That was magic. All right. Hey.
Wow.
And we are back. And I'm going to start it the right way. All right, welcome back to All right, welcome back to episode 8 of the Super Profit Friends SPF 15 podcast. Today, we are talking about business plans and how much we all love them and how valuable they are.
And also, I want to talk about this tea that Kayla made for me. Thank you very much,
Yeah,
Kayla.
you're welcome. Chamomile mint.
Is
you
it
need to
chamomile?
relax.
Chamomile mint.
Yeah. All right. This is going to counter the caffeine in my system.
Once again, our good friend Zach Keith is not with us today.
Guess where he is?
Connecticut.
He's still in Connecticut. Hasn't come back yet.
With his business partners.
Doing business things.
Doing business things.
All right, so let's talk about business plans. Does anybody here have a business plan for their business? Raise your hand.
I do. I actually do.
Does anybody? Oh, sorry.
Oh,
that
wait,
was
Zach? Zach?
Joshua and Walter who raised our hands, but kind of half-heartedly for Joshua.
Okay.
Now,
I don't think Zach has a business plan, right?
we can't talk about what Zach has because we don't
have Zach.
We don't have Zach here.
I don't think he does.
He's at a business meeting in Connecticut doing business things with his business partners.
With business partners. So I think business plans possibly
Tell us how
have
you
a
feel,
place.
Bill. Tell us how you feel.
I think business plans may have a place
Complete garbage.
for certain businesses.
You don't even like him.
I created a business plan based off of the business plan that you gave me for Roots 44 when you were thinking about doing that.
Yes.
And the reason I created the business plan was because I needed it in order to apply for a loan for my business. I only put it together for that reason, and I have not touched it since. I have not looked at it. I haven't considered it. I ended up not getting the loan from the bank when I had the business plan. So to me, it has been utterly useless.
I think a lot of people have that experience. Kaylin, do you have a business plan for your business?
I do not.
You don't. Shocking, right?
But your business is still successful?
And it makes money?
I mean, I would like to think it is.
You help people. And Chris, business plan?
Nope.
No business plan.
And your business is still successful?
Cranking,
Cranking, one might say.
Cranking.
Now, Walter, you have a business plan, though. So,
I do have a business plan.
why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
I have a business plan, and I have a model for building business plans that is effective for entrepreneurs. Right. So it's not necessarily your typical, the Roots business plan was 40-something pages, technical analysis. But I do have a very basic business plan, and it starts with, can I make $1 million in this business? Not saying today or this year, but is it possible, feasible to make $1 million in this business? And the only way to do it is some of the research that isn't a typical business plan. One question is, are there enough people who want this product, right? Is there enough people who desire the product? Is there enough product to sell? Can I even sell enough of this to ever make that $1 million? Because the idea is, if you get into a business and you're making $40,000 a year and you're kind of capped at that $40,000, the most you could ever make is maybe $50,000. Well, first year you're like great about it, but then second, third year, like, you're not growing anymore. So it was a bad business to have jumped into. So it's got to pass the $1 million question. Can I make $1 million in this one day? And then the way you find all that out is you go and you do the research. And then you say, am I willing to do what it takes to make money in this business? Do I have the skills? And those pieces, can even that business sustain in this economy, in this location, as local as the city we live in, right? So the business plan is more, and Chris said this earlier, more of a set of goals, right? You set up your goals and you say, okay, is it possible for me to hit this? If I'm going to hit it, how many employees do I need? How many transactions do we have to do? Where are we going to get the products from? What do they cost? How can we work the price down a little lower? Can we sell it in this demographic? Maybe do we have to go to a different state, or do we have to go into a different platform? Are we selling online? Are we selling through a social media platform? Are we selling locally where we actually go to events and we sell at events? So this is all part of a business plan, but it doesn't have to be multiple pages. It can literally just be a little bit of information so that you have something to work off of. It's basically written goals that had research done behind them. Now, it doesn't take months to make a business plan like this. You can literally do it in 4 hours Googling. Just Google hardcore, and you get your mentors, people in the business, and you ask them questions. How are they bringing their business in, and what do they suggest? And that's where your business plan comes from. It doesn't take a ton of time. It shouldn't be more than a page or two max, depending on the industry you're in. Some industries just have a lot of data behind them, so that could be pages and pages. But if it's just, okay, who is my client? How much do I need to make? And how do I make it? That is the three main pieces to a really useful, functional business plan.
It's all question.
Yeah,
it's all about asking the right questions.
So a business plan is just proof that you can pay this.
So let's do this first, because you did give a lot of information just then, a little ahead of where I wanted to go with it, but that's fine. So before we move any farther, though, let's first identify exactly what a business plan is, a formal business plan, versus what you're talking about.
Right.
A formal business plan is, like you said, like a 40-page, and it doesn't have to be 40 pages, could be whatever size, could be more, could be less, but it's basically like a formal breakdown of who your demographic is going to be, where your business is going to come from, how much your business costs to run, how much you're going to carry, how much you expect to make. It's like all this information that's put into a format that is, and I'm doing this in quotation marks, easily digestible. Because the reality is it's hard, like, to put that into a format that's like easy to read. You can do it, and I do agree with what you're saying. Like, you need to have a business plan, but having like a formal business plan that you have on paper, at least in like that context, in the traditional context of it, I think that's unnecessary. I think it's kind of a waste of time. Unless you're looking to get a loan, then you have to do that.
Yeah.
But otherwise, again, you need to do the research. Like, for me, I need to make sure that I need to know how many students I need to have to sustain my business on a month-to-month basis, and how many more I need once I hire instructors, and how many instructors I'm going to need per class. Like, I need all that information, which is stuff that I have to do the same research that I would on a traditional business plan, but without all the wasted time of like creating this formatting and these charts that aren't necessarily necessary. Like, great if you're a C personality, but
you got all the time in the world. We're doing DISC. Yeah, I like that.
Well, what's a C personality, really quick?
So DISC. C would be somebody who's more of an accountant. They're engineer type.
Okay.
They love
someone
information.
who's calculating.
Right.
Yeah, very calculating.
So not me.
And you're right. Like, to the point of the value of the business plan, like even a basic one with the graphs and all the numbers, it isn't important in the part of the business where it says, hey, let's get the business going. But when you finally do decide you want to go to money, like, for me as an investor, if somebody's coming to me with a deal, and I'm not talking normal business, I'm talking about like a real estate deal, they come to me, I want a business plan, right? I want to have a pro forma. But in our industry, it's 2 or 3 pages saying this is what the building is, what it's going to cost to repair, what the rents are going to be, and this is what the loan will be afterwards, and this is what we're going to make. I want to know the ROI. That's really what, to me, I need to know as a business investor. Mm-hmm. So it's, I think the business plan only comes into play when you're looking to go get money from somebody. Whether it's private money, it doesn't have to be as crazy of a business plan. But if you're going to a lender, a true bank, that's where really the 40-page business plan comes into play, where you're playing with the big boys. These guys are going to go through the report. And like, that's only when you're looking for money to support a business that probably already is doing well and you're just looking to expand to the next level. then you're going to investors, you're going to the banks. That's when you need a true business plan. But I would say bootstrap it first. Realistically, figure out things, learn the industry, instead of just jumping into something with a business plan that in an industry you've never been in before. You know, if you were a chef and you worked in the restaurant business for years and years, you may be able to go and get with a good, solid business plan, understand it, and go to investors and get money to back you because you have all the experience. Mm-hmm. But if you were a guy who ate at a restaurant, got a great idea, and came with a business plan and came to me, I would be nervous to work with you because you don't have the experience, regardless of how amazing that business plan is. Mm-hmm. You know, like, and that's I don't invest in restaurants. I don't invest in anything other than real estate because that's not that's something I understand.
It's something you don't have information on.
I don't have the knowledge or the grasp on it. But if it's a real estate deal, yeah, I'll look at that. You know, show me the numbers. Just give me the report. Let me know the demographics and the numbers. But it is only valuable if you need money. And I think most entrepreneurs really shouldn't start from a place of, I need money. It should be, I can already generate income in this, and to scale up what I'm doing, that's where a business plan comes into play. And it's not the first thing you start with.
I agree. I agree with that. The only thing that I'm going to jump in on, because obviously we talked about this before, where I dropped about $25,000 to build Amp Academy. You lent me $15,000 to build Amp Academy because the bank wouldn't give me the $40,000 that I had asked for.
Right.
So in that instance, like, I needed the business plan to go to the bank.
Right.
But once the bank said no, I didn't need a business plan. I had some of my money, and I was fortunate enough to have somebody to back me without asking for a business plan, even though I already had it. I could have shown it to you and you would have thrown it away anyway, because you'd have been like, well, I know how you work and I know it's going to exist just because you're doing it.
And I knew the key elements to you. I knew you had the experience. And even before we moved forward, you pulling out your own money and my money, I just told you, I said, Josh, go learn it somewhere else and go and you had students already. You proved the model. That was the first thing I said, well, prove the model. Once you proved it, I said, okay, scale time. You know, I'll jump in on scale because I'd seen you go and prove it. And like, that was like, after that, I knew your work ethic. It was easy.
Right. I remember you being like, hey, Walter, I'm going to do this and this and this, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then he was just like, yeah, cool. And
that was so frustrating.
I'm being serious. Like, I'm being serious about this.
Right. And in my head, he wasn't serious until he'd proven it with financial gain. But when he'd gone and he had students at another gym and he's making money doing exactly what he wanted to build, and I was like, oh, this makes sense. Right? He had basically a business plan, had everything in place, and then it wasn't the proven, look, it works. Right, and once he came to me with the look, it works. I'm like, well, if this works, then everything else works. Domino effect, right? Mm-hmm. So all he had to do was plug in the power to the machine that he'd already built, and that's what the cash was. Mm-hmm. You know, that first little bit of income. And so, well, if this works, then on scale, it works too.
It sounds like a business plan could be beneficial, just not in the business plan.
Traditional.
Yeah, right. So sitting down and be like, okay, I want to do this, and just getting numbers and figuring out stuff. And
well, we did it for you, even like with you getting the studio now.
Right.
Which, by the way, I know a couple episodes ago we had said it wasn't 100%.
Like, don't say anything.
It is now 100%. She has her studio. I laid the flooring myself.
He did on Christmas Eve.
On Christmas Eve, I spent 8 hours laying the flooring.
I saw that Snapchat, saw that Instagram, and I was like, "Oh, nice job, bro."
Get it. But in order to do that, we had to take, like, we thought about it. We were like, all right, how much is this studio going to cost to run, to have? And then how many photo shoots are you going to need to do every single month to justify it? And then once we had that, it was like, all right, well, can you afford it without that for the first few months on your regular working income? Because the reality is, once she gets into that studio, because of the awesome setup they have, it's going to bring more business, because there's literally a concert hall upstairs where they have hundreds of people that show up. Like,
every weekend.
Yeah, 2 or 3 days a week.
Right.
That are going to be going downstairs and like checking out the studios that are down there, and like in between the intermissions and everything.
This is at the Narrows?
So at the Narrows.
Yeah.
Narrows Center for the Arts, yeah.
And it's similar with Amp Academy.
Right. Because we put in the Lasergate building.
We put in
People are coming up and down
it's
all
the
the time.
Lasergate building. It's not really, but Lasergate is such a focal point. And
it's the biggest business in there.
One day, I think maybe we'll be the Amp Academy building.
I've actually already gotten people saying, "Oh, the Amp Academy building." I'm like, "Yes, that is correct. It is the Amp Academy building that also has Lasergate in it, but it's the Amp Academy building."
Yeah, and then you had other businesses that were symbiotic in there. You had Trader Jan's, which is the archery place. You have the what is the softball
Straight
place?
Shooters.
Straight Shooters.
Pool hall.
I think
There's a mosque in there.
And now you have the same symbiotic. You have artists coming through, and they need somebody to photograph their art or their shows.
I'll be right above a restaurant/brewery, so that's
that's right. The brewery is opening too, in that same building. So again, we had to look at that. Look at the numbers to figure out it's going to work. How long is it going to take to show some real benefit?
Right.
And then we had to figure out, what the lease would look like and signing up with all that and making sure that there were outs if needed, but at the same time we have the personality where there is no out, you just do it. You have to make it work.
So Chris, I know you don't like the traditional business plan, right? It's not your thing, but you somehow are managing a team of 2 guys plus yourself, and you're doing big commercial jobs. There must be some, you don't want to mention goals. There must be some way that you look at your goals in the manner of a business planner. You say, these are my expenses, I got to get past this.
Yep, I know exactly what payroll costs me every week. I break everything down to a month. I know I combine my personal and my business expenses, obviously, because it's my life. So my office and shop, my apartment, payroll, health insurance. I take all that stuff, and so I have that number. And I realize I need to bring in X amount this month for checks.
Above that.
Yeah, exactly. To take care of all of that. But I got to make sure that it's enough to pay supply house bills also, because if your supply house accounts get maxed out, can't buy material, literally can't do work.
Right.
So and then once you start pulling money from the company, obviously, but so that's my number. I gotta make X amount every month, which to me I need at least I gotta make $12,000 every month to sustain all that.
Yeah. And that's stuff that the guys don't notice, right? Other business owners don't look at that.
No, you gotta know what your bills are.
You gotta know your numbers.
You have to know gas.
Yeah.
Especially vehicle maintenance.
There's so many things. There's so many things.
The other day, I went 400 miles, dude. In one day, because I do a lot of driving. Right. And it's all right, then yes, I have to take it. That's something I overlooked when I bought my van. I drive a utility van. This thing guzzles gas. At the time, I didn't realize I'd be going to Springfield or Andover and Chelmsford. I didn't realize that.
Right.
But now I do. Right. So it's I gotta take the next vehicle. I gotta take that into account.
Well, you get your quoting days, where your quoting days, you take the little Prius out there. Prius is everywhere.
I take my truck, and that's a loud diesel. But, it's a little better on gas. It's a little better on gas.
All right, so we are past the 15-minute mark, and we're about to run out of film on the camera, so we have to cut this now. Again, we talked about the business plan, how a traditional business plan may or may not make sense. It really makes sense if you're looking to get money from a loan of some kind. But regardless, you do need to have some kind of business plan in terms of knowing how you're going to make your business survive and how you're going to make your business grow. So that is all for episode 8 of Super Profit Friends. Thank you guys very much for hanging out with us. We will be back in the next episode to talk about goal setting. So,
which is perfect, because your business plan is your goals. Winning.
Right. It's like we planned that.
That's not bad.
We very loosely planned it.
All right, guys. Come up with some kind of loose business plan until next week when you see the Goal Setting Podcast.
Signing off. I always want the best.
Always with that. Be awesome. That's my thing.
Be awesome.
Be awesome. I can dig it.